What's up, everybody? It's Guubums back, and today I have a coaching video. So, for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Guubums. I've been playing competitive TFT for a while now. Been rank 1 every set since I started playing in set 4. I competed in World Finals in set 6, finishing 5th. So today I got a coaching video. I'm coaching someone who's like been challenger, but mostly like a high GM player. One of the questions I get asked the most is like, okay, what's the difference between a GM and a challenger player? Most of the time I can't really give a good answer just because there normally really isn't one. But I mean, I think this video will help showcase some of the differences you'll find between kind of like a good player, which is like someone in GM, someone in Masters, someone in Challenger, and someone who, plays, I guess, competitively. Let me know if you guys like the video, and here we go. All right, just gonna take a look at your wall chest real quick. I mean, normally this doesn't actually do anything. It's just like, I can normally tell like if you're playing bad comps mostly, but it doesn't look like you are. Some fast nine. I mean, you're pretty high up. I think I've actually played with you before, probably.
Yeah, no, I remember the game. I just started doing like the Fast 9 stuff. It's mainly not my playstyle, but I'm kind of getting frustrated at this like meta. I don't know how to say it, but like I mainly just played Ornn. Like I really liked the consistency and just playing like good TFT.
Hmm.
And then I just feel like right now there's so many like outs for ASOL players. You know, like Prismatic, Blood Money, Scuttle Puddle, medium end shopping is like disgusting. Where I feel like when I'm Ornn, I'm just getting like outplaced for free a lot of times. I just don't like it.
Obviously, like doing stuff like this, I mean, I can just tell is pretty high risk. Like as you can see, like I think probably it's actually going to be important to find like one of these seconds because oftentimes, like, okay, maybe not that game's a bad example, but some of these games where you have like these fully upgraded boards where you go like fourth or second, those are going to be important because like obviously it's fine, like it happens to everyone that they go sixth, they go eighth, they go seventh, like playing this fast nine style because obviously it's really high risk to begin with. Like you're generally trying to win out on like plenty of lives, but normally it's around 2 lives as opposed to one. Obviously, if you have one life, you're going. It's very possible to lose somewhere. I've noticed like the items you're slamming are actually fine for the most part. Like I'll find that when I'm coaching someone, if I'm looking at their games, what will happen is that like their like main carry has like 3 really good items, and then their off carry has like some weird stuff. So I mean, like I can't look at too much with lol chess. Obviously, there's like I'm only looking at the final bit, but for the most part, it doesn't seem like you're doing anything terribly wrong. But obviously, we have to see in game.
Yeah, I mean if I ever do it again, I'll probably show like either a six or like a third or a second, something along the line. I just picked like these eighths because I'm not sure what happens, but when I get into really high lobbies, like everyone's challenger or something, if I'm not given like a really strong start, it just feels like I'm gonna be outplaced. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like I can't keep up with the lobby. If someone's dropped like an action, like half the lobbies drop action, I have like not too much direction. It just feels like hard for me to keep up. I'm not sure if you get what I mean, but
Yeah, I
it
mean,
kind of happens in these games.
for one, like Auction is just a little bit too OP. So like if you can't keep up with like people getting dropped Auction right now, it's pretty common. Okay, even like just this like without looking at what you've done. So the only direction you have for your thing right now is this tier. Obviously, like most people's preferred units to play. This is assuming you're playing like you're willing to play like most of the meta comps. Most people's preferred way of playing this opener is to play either Jin solo and sell all to guarantee econ, even though they get 3, so you don't actually have to do that most of the time. That's
Mhm.
two. If they one of these drops are 6 gold, then you get 6 plus 3. You still can't make gold. So actually, there's no reason to just play a 1 gold unit on this turn. There is a reason to play a 1 gold unit on the next turn, so you can make 20. I prefer not to do it. I'd rather hold units. But okay, with your direction as only tier, most people want to play Deadeye, obviously because like playing towards Auction is like favored for most people in the current meta. But I'm pretty sure with your only direction as tier, the best thing to play is Malzahar Swain. Otherwise, like you can think of something with Cassio, but it's probably not worth it. So yeah, that's good. This is already.
I mean, it's Scuttle Puddle, so I also feel the pressure to make 10 here. I just take a look at my items. I'm like, okay, I mean, it has to be like APs, some kind of AP centered, because I'm given a tier like a Negatron. It doesn't really matter what else is dropped to me. I mean, you'll see like I sell the Warwick and the Ash, but I'm kind of hesitant. I generally like to keep my options open, but yeah, I just sell it.
In general, making 10 on 1-3, you can only do it if you get a 2 item opener. But in general, making 10 on 1-3 is actually really strong. I think it's less important on 1-4. Like if you have to sell all your options to make 10 on 1-4, it's probably not like entirely worth it. A lot of times, assuming your options are actually good. Obviously, if you're just selling like just on a kill, like nobody cares. It's fine. But yeah, I think selling here is like I would sell here.
I think one thing to look out for in this VOD is like normally I understand where my comp needs to spike, but sometimes I just take too many losses to get there. Well, we could just keep watching here.
Okay. On the augment choice, there's already like a couple kind of issues. Okay, if you're mentally committed to taking Forge, I think that's fine. Unified is like broken. It's actually worse. I don't know if like this is what you're thinking about, but Unified is worse when you have to play like Swain. It's like it's fine to full backline your entire team on stage two. Like most of the time you won't get issues from it. Like some fights you will, but most fights you won't. The reason why you can't take it with if you're angling like from a Swain opener is because Swain's a range unit, so Swain will actually cause you issues because Swain stays back way too far back. Like melee units will generally walk up like one row further up as opposed to like Swain and like who's another range tank. I don't think there are any of the set, but Swain's like the main one. Lissandra's like kind of one, but like she's not really a tank. Anyways, so that's the like. Otherwise, I would actually like strongly consider Unified Resistance. Reason is Unified Resistance also scales a lot better than Ornn. Ornn is really good, obviously, if you're trying to streak early, but you have Hodge plus Cloak components, which generally you don't really want to slam any of these. If you're angling AP, you definitely don't want to slam Hodge because you need to save your tier. If you're
Yeah.
angling AP, once again, you don't want to kill the Cloak because that's the best rod component with Spark. So then, like, it's really hard. Like, you're not obviously not slamming QSS, you're not slamming Hodge, and you're probably not slamming Ice Cream either. So most of the time, your item slams don't allow you to streak here, like unless you have like something really really upgraded. In which case, then you might be able to slam a Hodge, you might be able to slam. Probably I wouldn't slam Ice Cream. I'd probably do Hodge if I was forced to slam anything. It's also Scuttle Puddle. I don't actually think Scuttle Puddle gives you that many more components. I think it gives you a couple more, but it's not giving you like that much more. It's mostly in the form of gold. So yeah, I'd actually like strongly consider Unified just because like you could probably choose to sack some of your stage two. You don't have to like full sack stage two, but you can look to like not be like you already don't have upgrades, right? So on 2-1, most of the time you don't win. 2-2, I'd say most of the time you don't win. And starting from like 2-3, 2-4, 2-3, 2-5, you might start winning once you get your item, especially. Because that item could be Shojin, it could be Blue Buff, it could be Spark, it could be Guard Breaker, assuming you've actually won some of these rounds. Because most of the time you, like you say, you can't get an offensive component. Most of the time you're going to get like Chain, which will be Stone Plate, or you'll get Belt, which will probably be Guard Breaker. So like thinking about like what your components can be after neutrals is like really important. The reason why like I'm talking about stuff like this is because I think like you're a GM player, so most of like the the basic concepts you understand. But like understanding like what these items are components are going to be based on like what your HP is about to be on stage two is actually going to be really important. So for example, like an example of this might be like you have a rod. If you have a Malzahar 2, most of the time you're actually going to be winning your first three fights. So you can't put the rod on Malzahar because a lot of times that rod's going to end up being a spark because you're going to get a cloak off this carousel because cloak's obviously not a very strong component. Like otherwise, like if you're like in the middle of the pack HP, you can just put the rod on Malzahar. Oftentimes it's gonna be like Deathcap, JG, Gunblade, something like that, right? It's like looking forward to what your components are gonna end up being is gonna be really important. Obviously, you can't slam that hard right now, which is why I would strongly consider Unified Resistance. Realistically, if you end up taking Forge, that's fine. I think you should reroll the middle augment. Unified is probably just straight up better than LDP in the current meta after the nerfs. And here, okay, so I'll talk about all three of these options, but basically, Hull Crusher is the worst of the three. Just like high level. Hull Crusher is actually not untakeable. It is one of the not as good Ornn items, I would say, but it's the where it has its place is oftentimes in Streak. But the thing is, looking at your board, one, Swain is really good with Anima just because he gives himself like max HP. Obviously, that scales really well with Anima, like in terms of like an item that you can slam immediately. But you also, once again, like you don't have really good slams, right? So you shouldn't be looking for a streak item. Trickster's Class is either the best or the second best Ornn item depending on your spot. There's two items that I would take over in Eternal Winter, and that's Tricksters and Collector. Collector's I would only take over Eternal Winter if I have like an auction, so it's like a really niche scenario. And Trickster's Glass, I would actually take over Eternal Winter if I have like backline items or an upgraded backliner. Because Trickster's Glass, I know like a lot of players like to put on J4, and like it's kind of fun on J4, but it's really not that good on J4. It's much better on backliners. Especially in the early game, you do really want to be putting it on like backliner with their trait ticked in. So you have two Sork, you have a Malzahar pair. You don't have a Malzahar in shop. We already saw that because you can see your shop before this thing pops up, which by the way is really important. But anyways, this Trickster's Glass, if you put it on a Malzahar 2, will probably streak you once you get that online. But that being said, like going for Hull Crusher, going for Anima Visage is not as good just because you don't have upgrades, and these are predominantly streak items. So Tricksters has much better scaling as well as being able to streak if you have like the right scenario for it, which is why I wouldn't take
Yeah.
Hull Crusher.
Yeah, I think my line of reasoning there was I would normally take Trickster's Glass if I had like a backline. And I remember looking at my shop and I didn't have the Malzahar 2. I think I should have just thought that like Tricksters would have like scaled like just harder in general. I think it's fine now that I see it. Trickster's Glass is just gonna probably give me more value just in general. If I have like a really strong frontliner, I feel fine with Anima. I'm not really too sure why I took Hull Crusher because I normally try to avoid it. But I think with these three, like I just wanted Ornn just to give me something, just a little bit more direction. And then I got these three choices, and I was like, oh, whatever. Like I guess I'll just take like this Hull Crusher thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So those three are like about as directionalist as it gets. Obviously, I think Trickster's probably, if I was forced to answer, like Trickster's probably gives you the most direction of the three, just because these other two are like really, you just put it on front line and call it a day kind of items. Trickster's Glass is like specifically really strong on Auction and Callista, for example, and to an extent
Yeah.
like Lux. Otherwise, like direction wise, I don't think you need to commit to any direction right now, just because you're most likely, once again, you're most likely losing 2-1 and 2-2. If you get Malzahar 2 next turn, then like you can reevaluate your spot. But for the most part, with no item slams, with no upgrades, you're gonna lose to 1-2-2. So you have to accept the fact that you're going to lose to 1-2-2, and like not force the game in a way that it's not like pointing you in, right? So like say you slam this whole crusher, you level, you play Jinx is the highest cost unit, it's a backliner. You don't really need a front line because of Hull Crusher Swain. So your front line's kind of soft. I think Jinx is probably the strongest. It's hard to say. But let's say you do that and you win 2-1. With no item slams, you're probably still going to probably not win 2-2. If you get an upgrade, then once again, you can reevaluate. But a lot of times what will happen is you'll win one of the first 2 rounds. And winning the first round is a lot better than winning the second round most of the time. Because if you win the second round, a lot of times what happens is you lose, win, lose, 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 lose. And then that's just like perfectly broken streak. Whereas if you win the first round and you lose the rest, it's fine. If you win the first round, you win the second round, then you're pretty much off to the races. You already get a lot of gold from doing that. So yeah, just looking at your spot, it looks like you just have to sell to make 20 and play around whatever you choose to play. You can actually choose to play around the double Jin instead of the Sorks if you so choose, just because even though you open with that tier that we said gave you like a Malzahar Swain kind of direction from that spot, obviously you didn't get anything good to like match with the tier. So you didn't get like Shiv, you didn't get a Rod to make Spark, you didn't get, I don't know, even Stoneplate to like solve your front line and then go for like a tier item off carousel. Like pretty much you got nothing that like forces you in any one way or the other. Yeah, it's fine to just like get rid of these and make 20 and then see like pretty much see what the shops give you. And then like moving forward, okay, so we choose not to level here. I assume you're gonna make 20 somehow. However you choose to do it is fine. I think there's merit to like holding any type of these units. I think I would have held Renekton as well, just because Bruisers pair well with Void, which is because of Cho'Gath and Rek'Sai, obviously. So once again, you still probably can't streak. Like, yeah, playing Teemos, like, you're playing strongest forward, but it doesn't really matter. There's a Piltover player, so opening's going to be hard. Okay, killed the
I was
unit.
also thinking like most likely, even if I got like if I just kept having no direction, I probably couldn't. What is it, like 5 loss because of the Piltover player?
Yeah.
I believe if I remember this game correctly, like I actually get really lucky and I'm able to 5 streak because I don't hit them.
Yeah, sometimes
But
that's just what you have to do. Okay, so we went for
yeah,
spat here. Okay, so if you're going spat here, okay, so this is where I think it's like super dangerous. I've seen people do this. The problem with taking a spat here is that your other two component, one, you'll still need a new tier or two if
yeah,
you're going for blue buff, or like sometimes it's blue buff, sometimes it's Shojin. But you're gonna need a new tier because you're obviously using this to make source spat most of the time, or you're gonna need 2 rods. So the thing is, this makes it so that the only components you want from this spot is Stoneplate, which is like mediocre, especially because you took Hull Crush already. You're gonna make Guard Breaker, which is fine, but then you still don't have a tier. Pretty much, this forces your reliance on tiers and rods way too heavily. So without an item slam here, when you go for a weak item slam, which is like, so I would call Source like a weak item slam, just because it doesn't actually, even though it gives you a ton of direction, pretty much you can still get screwed out of that direction by not being dropped tiers and rods on a timely matter. So like, if Krugs drops 0 of either, you're probably completely screwed. If Krugs drops 1 tier, no sword, no other tier, you're gonna be in a bad spot. And if Krugs drops 1 rod and like 1 tier, obviously you're fine. If it drops like 1 rod, 1 belt, you're probably fine. Pretty much, there's a lot of cases. I'd say more than half the cases on Krugs, you're probably gonna be screwed, or you're gonna be in like put on the back foot. And oftentimes, if you're 5 streaking here, like 5 loss, what will happen is that you're going to have to roll on 3-2 to establish a board. Except once again, if by 3-2 you don't have item slams because you failed to get like a mana item for your Malzahar or like a rod item for either Spark or JG, something like that, you're just not going to be able to be that strong on 3-2 no matter what. Even if you get your upgrades, like even if you get Malz 2, let's say Vel'Koz 1, Swain 2, maybe Taric 2, but only because you have a Taric here, but like otherwise most of the time you can't expect a Taric 2 by then. You can expect Taric 1. Maybe Cassian 2. Obviously this Cho'Gath is like okay, but he's not that good past stage 2. Most of the time, even on stage 3-2 forward, you won't be strong with this line. But I can see the angle. Like if you had a Spark, for example, I can see this angle, right? Or if you had like, it's impossible to have a backup tier, but like say you had a backup tier, that you can I can understand this. Like pretty much spat is like leaving too much up to chance. It's just pretty much saying if my item drops are good, I'll be fine. If my item drops are bad, I might just go 8th, or like I might just go bot 2. And also you don't actually have to commit to Sorks here, right? Like I understand why you want to. I haven't seen the lobby yet. Maybe if like there's not that many Sorks players, that's like even more adds to it even more. I can understand why you want to commit to Sorks here, but you actually don't have to, right? Like let's say you had an auction in the shop, right? Would you have really wanted the spat? Absolutely not. You'd much rather have like a sword or a bow. So with all that said, I think technically speaking, the best thing to take is a Shojin, just because if you take a sword and there's an auction here, you can reevaluate. Once again, you still don't have to slam until Krugs, right? Like at this point, you're probably committing to wanting to 5-loss, even if you don't end up 5-lossing. You want to 5-loss. Obviously, we talked about how there's a Piltover player. I think it's this guy in the lobby, so it's gonna be hard to 5-loss, but you can choose to full open if you want. And the thing is, especially this is only true because of Scuttle Puddle. Because of Scuttle Puddle, you're actually gonna make 40-50 and 50-50-50 again, no matter what, even if you don't 5-loss. So like 5-lossing is slightly less important. Once again, like we would still prefer to 5-loss, and I'm sure we kind of agree with that. But like if you got something strong enough on this shop, then maybe that would change. So like directionally speaking, I don't necessarily agree with like hard committing Sorks here, just because your two remaining components both need a rod to kill. Belt for Guardbreaker is fine, but JG's better, and also belt or rod that kills this glove. And this cloak is only killed by exactly Spark, or like Stoneplate's okay. Like Stoneplate in Sorks tends to be pretty bad, by the way, except as a streak item, it's really quite good. Keep all that in mind, I guess. I know it's a lot, but probably the best thing is sword, but it's not obvious which one's the best.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. I think when I did the spat take, like I could feel it being like not very good. But yeah, I think I was just desperate for direction, and I think that's where we deviate the most on this choice, and I think it like snowballs, just like you said. If I remember correctly, like my drops were not favorable toward like Sorks, and it just compounded the issue because like this net spat can only be like Sork spat.
Yeah,
It
most of the
just
time.
gets
Yeah.
worse and worse.
Yeah, like I haven't watched this game, right? So like I can make that prediction as soon as you took it, and that's something that's gonna be like. So if I don't know, like I'm gonna be like, this is one of the questions I get asked a lot. I often say it's a pretty bad question, but like, what's the difference between like a challenger player or like a GM player? Like I don't know what the difference between a challenger and a GM player is, but like something that like really good players can do is like understand like the risk of their choices. Obviously, if this pays off, by the way, for you, so you get a spark here and a tier, like I said, tier rod on Scuttle Puddle. Also, Scuttle Puddle tends to give you more drops. Once again, I don't actually know exactly how Scuttle Portal works with regards to item drops. I think most of the time it's just mostly gold. But anyways, like if you get lucky here, your spot's gonna be insane. You have Sork Spat, you have Spark, you have half a JG that you can get later. You're still low HP, so at worst you're gonna be third pick, but that's like very very worst. You can expect to be second pick next stage, assuming you lose this fight. So that allows you to like finish off one of the items that you probably want going into 3-5, which is obviously everybody's level 7 turn with Scuttle Puddle. Looking at it long term, if you get lucky off this Krugs, the chance that you like win the game or like top 4 is extremely high, by the way. In that sense, I actually don't think like going for search spots like all that bad, but you do have to understand that the risk of not hitting is like pretty much, if you don't hit, the risk is like really bad. Also, I will like commend you on certain things. Like I actually think the units you've played, the units you've held has been pretty much entirely correct all the way through. I don't think I've actually seen a single mistake. Like selling Timo and Lissandra, there's always correct. Here, I'd probably just lose econ for a ball cause. It's fine. You're still trying to lose this. You can only open so hard, which is part of the problem. It's also part of the problem with picking up Hull Crusher, but like, there's only so much you can do against a Piltover player anyway, right? Like, your units are not weak enough. Like, you don't have any Tristananas and Kales in shop to like full open. And even if you did, if he's not playing Echo, I think he's playing Jace. It's much better as the Piltover player to have a Jace than an Echo because Echo's too strong in the early game. But yeah, if he's playing Jace and he's playing 3 units, most of the time you can't even lose against him. So you're just hoping to high roll the chance that you lose. But also, I see there's another open fort. Pizzi's also open forting. Without looking at his board, I can't exactly see how you can open fort, but hopefully we just get the open fort off. You mentioned that you think you did, but yeah, just that spat is like, I do like that you don't slam the sorcerer spat. A lot of people actually just slam the sorcerer spat. That's even worse because like, let's say you get a spat on Krugs, like you're already committing to losing these 2 fights. If you get a spat on Krugs, you're gonna just be like so sad, right? Anyways, yeah, this you could pre-level probably. I would not make econ just because Malzahar is too important. Okay, so this is like probably the first turn that I don't really agree with. I think Malzahar 2 is like what sets up your future. At this point, you're so mentally committed to Sorks. Like, even if you told me straight up, oh, I'm not actually that committed to Sorks, the thing is, I can tell you right now, you are so mentally committed to Sorks that it's pretty much impossible. It's going to be so hard for you to get direction to pivot out. You'd have to hit like an Auction 2 off these Krugs. And then you'd also spend the entire game thinking about what you're doing with the spat, which is probably going to be Sherman's spat, but nevertheless. Like, pretty much you're mentally committed to Sorks. So if you're mentally committed to Sorks, you generally want to be playing around Malz 2. Malz 2 is stronger than Vel'Koz 1 right now. That didn't used to be true, but they buffed Malzahar and nerfed Vel'Koz, so yeah. I don't agree with this. I think it's better to just lose econ. You will make it back 50 guaranteed next turn anyway. Oftentimes when you lose econ on this turn, you actually lose the econ for the next turn. It's definitely not, it's 100% not true for Scuttle Puddle, and it's definitely not predictable because you don't know how much gold you're getting. But it's also not entirely true just in general as well, because you get increments of like 3 and 6 gold. So oftentimes, even if, let's say you pre-leveled here and held the Malzahar, you're down 5 gold. If you're to get dropped 6 gold on Krugs, which is like, I think above like a 30% chance of being dropped, then you're gonna make econ anyway. So it's like it's not gonna cost you 2 gold. It's just gonna cost you 1. And so all this is in conjunction with the fact. I'll show here by the way. But all this is in conjunction with the fact that on 3-2 you're committed to rolling, because like if you full open 4-3-5, you're probably gonna die. Especially now with the Tarek pair, like you like all of this is just like compounding onto the fact that you want to be rolling on 3-2. I will say in general on the current patch, for playing like AP lines like Vel'Koz Sorks, it's generally advisable to play be rolling on 3-2 rather than 3-5, just because Lux by herself is not strong enough. It's better to like upgrade your Tarek, upgrade your Swain, play around a Mouse 2, play around Vel'Koz 2, stuff like that. Play around Void mid game. Okay, don't do that. That is very, very bad. If you get dropped a spat here, you make a fawn, and you don't have to play Sorks. No, this is not allowed. No flame, but yeah, that's not allowed. Okay, you got so okay. There's no way you're not holding your breath there on that golden orb.
Yeah, no, I am.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean you're right. I'm like so mentally in Sorks right now. Literally nothing can pull me out.
Right, which is fine by the way.
Saying like yeah, like this has to be a Sorks. I just like made it. I didn't want to get like overwhelmed, like especially during this like PvE round, because I already know like I think mentally I'm already thinking like how do I get to like the next stage? Getting my team ready for like stage 3.
Okay. Not wanting to get overwhelmed by the way is super important. I will say on a 5 loss is one of the times where you can allow yourself to get overwhelmed, because like if you lose 3-1, it's not nearly as big of a deal. I will say, your items are pretty much boned. I mean, you don't have a tier or rod. You need to get dropped 1 most likely. So this is gonna be a stone plate or a shroud. I think both are actually acceptable. If you want to do a shroud, I think it's fine. I might actually do shroud, but like I can understand. Oh wait, is there 2 gloves here? Is that 2 gloves?
Yeah,
Oh, it's 2
gloves. I was hard
useless.
considering shroud too.
It's shroud or TG. I think going TG and making a stone plate is the best use of your items. And then you're just hard committing. I need to get a show general else I lose the game. Okay, so here it's probably level roll, because once again, once you've committed to Sorks spat, you know you're playing Sorks. Once again, like there's nothing that can pull you out, and there's nothing that should pull you out at this point. Like moving past the point that like I don't agree with slamming the Sorks spat when you did, but whatever, we've done it. So moving past that, like you know you're committing Sorks, so you can actually just level roll here. Tarek pair, Vel'Koz pair. There's a lot to roll for, and you can actually get strong. And you have a decent amount of good slams as well. So like going stone plate here is fine. Going like TG here on top of that is fine. Oftentimes if you're playing Ornn, you actually want to avoid slamming on 3-1, just because 3-2 gives you either medium forge or small forge. Like you don't play for the prismatic. The prismatic happens like I want to say like 20-something% of the time, or like I think it's like 18 maybe. I don't remember off the top of my head. But like you know, it's like it's not going to be like a huge percentage of the time, right? So anyways, you do want to avoid slamming items on 3-1 if at all possible. But 1, you're terribly low HP, obviously, because you open for it. That's fine. Like there's no criticism there. But and 2, you've also committed. So once you've committed, it's a lot easier to slam items. Like if it's small forge and you do end up taking small forge because the other options aren't good enough, then you're always going for tier rod. Like it doesn't matter. You're just always going for tier rod regardless. It literally doesn't matter. There will never be a case where you go for anything other than tier rod on small forge. And medium forge, you're always going for an offensive item if you can. So the reason why I say that is because you have 0 offensive items right now. Yeah, you have a sword. And you have gloves that can theoretically make offensive items. Once again, these gloves probably just have to be a TG. You can't hold out on like making JG guard breaker, because you don't have a single rod, you don't have a single belt, like you don't have a single anything. So in my opinion, it's like forced to be TG. Stone plate, you can argue for, but I think no matter what, TG has to be slammed now. And TG is not that bad, by the way. So it's like I'm saying as though like it's a terrible thing. It's really not. I think leveling here is fine. You should probably just roll. Because like if not, you're rolling next turn. I can understand wanting to wait for augment round, but like at this point you are low on HP. Like so you took a 5-0 here. Is it 5-0? Yeah, 5-0 is here. Oh, nice. Honestly, killing 1 there, by the way, is like I mean you save 1 HP, so it's actually not that high roll. But back when you used to save 2 HP, that was high roll. Anyways, whatever. Sword card's better than small forge. So okay, the thing is you're actually in the races. Because okay, so this is like the biggest bailout. Because Sork spat is the most broken thing of all time. Because you're super stable on 6 and you're super stable on 7 as well. Reason why you're stable on 6 is like you have 6 Sork. I mean, you have 6 Sork right now for free. Oftentimes what will happen, you have 6 Sork, but otherwise it'd be 4 Sork. The best level 6 board to play is Tarek, Malzahar, Vel'Koz, Swain, Teemo, Kassadin. No, sorry. It's just these three Swain, so that's 4 Sork plus Teemo plus Kassadin. So you get 3 Void, 2 Bastion, 4 Sork. But obviously you're gonna, like, ideally, if you were to do that, then you'd get 6 Sork, which is obviously much better. This would still, I understand, like, now there's actually an argument to holding out and going level 7. If you want to do a level 7 play, I think it's probably better to just all in this turn because you're at 54 HP and you have 2 pairs. Like, pretty much, you really want to roll on this turn. I see the argument for rolling on 6. I see the argument for rolling on 7. I think both are completely reasonable. So, whichever one you want to do is fine. Also, sorry, I forgot to mention, the reason why, like, getting +2 with Heart is really broken on 7 is because you just play 8 Sork, which is, like, super cheap. Pick up this Ori. You get to play 8 Sork on 1 Lux. Super cheap and super strong, so it's pretty good. But, and TG still probably has a good slam, by the way.
That's what I ended up doing, but I think like I didn't have that. I felt the need to like get stronger, but then I hit the 6 Sork, I hit the Swain too, and I think I just got like this false sense of like, oh, I can wait till 3-5 to like send it down on level 7. I don't think I should have done that, especially with it being Scuttle Puddle. Like, I had so much econ. I think I might as well have just
Yeah, so
sent
like,
it at least for something.
yeah, okay, so say you go 7 and roll, you're like 38-ish, right? Hold up, 40, 40, 31. You're 35. You're 35, level 7, fresh, so like without rolling a single time. If you roll down to like 10 after that, you'll probably still be able to recover your econ after Wolves to be like 50 gold level 7 after Wolves, by the way. In which case, you're back on pace with the rest of the lobby. So going to 7 is completely fine here. Going to 6, once again, is completely fine here. But the reason why it's completely necessary to roll here is because you sacked all of stage 2 pretty much to have exactly what you have, right? Which is the paired 3 costs that both turbo spike your board. Problem is, spiking your board, the problem with spiking your board here, like say you get Taric 2, Vel'Koz 2, you actually still probably don't win enough fights because you don't have a single Vel'Koz item, which is once again the issue with like going with this line to begin with, right? Let's say hypothetically you took a sword and played Akshan, what would you have? Like, this is like, it's a little bit maybe like too out there because obviously you did upgrade your board as well, so it's like you don't actually have to play towards Akshan. Maybe that was the wrong line, but let's say you hit an Akshan pair, which you would have had an Akshan pair, but like Akshan pair here with sword instead of spat, so then you can go like Hodge IE Akshan, which is fine, and then eventually Hull Crusher goes on Urgot. Like, that might be a better line if you were to roll here and hit Akshan too, right? That would actually be a much better line. Once again, all of this is like predictive and some of it is hindsight. Okay, I actually don't think it's hindsight. It's actually mostly predictive. The reason why I don't say it's hindsight is because when you took the spat, I could have predicted that all of this was like within like 30 to 50% chance of happening. This is like one of those things you just have to look out for. Like moving forward, like in terms of like your growth as a player, is like predicting the outcome of some of the decisions you make, especially in the early game. And
Yeah.
that way, like, you know that like, okay, if this can happen, how do I avoid this spot going into like the next time I play around this opener, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I think this is like one of the biggest reasons why like I wanted the coaching at this point in my growth, because like I fully recognize that in me keeping up with some of these lobbies, I'm taking like a lot of risks and I'm like increasing like variance on my play, and I'm really trying. I prefer to like lower it. I prefer to be able to
Mitigating risk.
yeah, like as much as I can. But sometimes the games feels like it's out of my control, and I don't know when or where that is. I can definitely point here to taking a spat or like messing up my item rotation, and not playing to like certain outs. Like, I think I really put myself in a box here, and even on top of that, probably was like way too greedy. I think a better player would have probably been able to salvage this into like at least a 6. I just went uncontested 8th, so
Yeah, I will say, like, pretty much sitting this turn, I think is like a huge misplay. I think this is probably the last turn you have at like heavily influencing your outcome, because your play right now. Say you're going 3-5. It's like pure RNG on how much HP you lose on these, but I can tell you, you are expected to take like 4-0-4-0. I don't know what happens. I'm gonna see obviously in a couple of seconds, but I'm expecting like a 4-0-4-0. In which case you're like, it's either 11-11 or 12-12. In which case, you're at 30 HP. 30 HP.
yeah.
If you do not hit RE1, by the way, you like, even Lux 2 might not say, okay, Lux 2 probably saves you, but like you might have to actually hit RE1 on 7 to save yourself out of an 8 if you're at 30 HP. That being said, you are at your spot for if you were to actually be able to win these rounds, which it would be an absolute miracle to win these 2 rounds. If you were actually able to win these 2 rounds and make it to 7 and get your Shojin, you can possibly go first, but like probably not, honestly. The reason why I say probably not is because your only offensive item is still going to be a Shojin. Like, you're not going to be able to get both a Shojin and a JG off, or like a guard breaker, whatever, same thing, off this neutrals here. Like, you're always going for Shojin, which is why I'm so inclined to slam TG, is that like there is nothing that will stop you from going for Shojin here other than the carousel griefs you. And if the carousel griefs you into having no tier, I'm pretty sure last I saw Pitsy and this guy's Piltover. But last I saw Pitsy, he's not even playing AP. So the chance that you get tier is actually really high. But if this carousel doesn't have a tier, you're fucked anyway. Or you're screwed anyway, right? Like, Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, if I get too low HP, the Piltover player comes for their attacks anyways, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Like
die.
eventually, once this guy cashes out, which he will because he has Tiny Titans, it's impossible to stop this guy.
Yep.
You will die. So RE1 or bust probably at this point. You did
Yeah, and
manage
the
to win that
game.
right round, which I actually, honestly, when I was doing my prediction on this turn, I actually saw that you're already fighting the Piltover. I should have predicted that you're going to win that round, but honestly, it looks like you win this round too. Do you?
Uh, no, I don't think I do.
Swain's dying because Samira actually kills all tanks.
Yeah.
Samira, and he has set too. Okay, never mind. You definitely are winning this one. Okay, 3-0. Okay, 45. Honestly, the game is still not unplayable yet. And your tier's not gone, which was reasonable enough. Also, another thing you actually have to look at, by the way, and this goes back to like predicting like the what your components end up being, is that like you can look at these players going into the carousel and like predicting whether or not you can actually get this tier. Like if it's a 50-50 to get the tier, then that means your best chance is like probably 50-50. It's like
Yeah.
technically speaking not exactly 50-50 because of like chance of it being certain carousels. Stage 3 carousels, what I call an unreliable carousel, meaning that there's a like the triple spat stuff, like 3 tier, 3 glove carousels happen a lot more often on stage 3 than on stage 2. They never happen on stage 2 and stage 4. Stage 2 and stage 4 are super reliable. It's like sub 5% for them to happen. So say this guy needed a tier, which he never does, but say this guy needed a tier, then your best chance of getting it is 50-50. Right now it's probably like in the 75% range, which is probably worth playing for. But anyways, like that's just like something you can know. It's not relevant to your game. So yeah, let's roll here. Roll downs are probably just worth watching the entire thing. So I can already tell you what your mistake is, but I'll wait until after the thing's done. Okay, one, we're rolling too slow. And the reason for that is, before your roll down starts, so like right here on 3-5, I know you'll see if you watch like Soju a lot, he'll literally just start picking up this Kaisa Gwen. And maybe it's fine to pick up Kaisa Gwen specifically, just because they can actually hold Shojin Soak Spot. So those are actually acceptable. But like, do not pick. And I know you're not gonna actually pick up this Casio, but like, you'll see Soju on this turn. He'll pick up all 5 units, and maybe Soju can do it because Soju's really good. But I'll say this for myself and for a lot of other players that are obviously not as good as Soju, is that you do not pick up the shop. Like in this shop, okay, this shop you do just because it has Oriana Malzahar. That's a bad example, but like don't pick up your shops while you're rolling down, and you need to sell these 2 poppies right away. Like if this poppy is on your board by the end of this turn, that means you fucked up your roll down regardless. Like yes, you can upgrade this poppy, and technically speaking, you are getting a little bit stronger, and technically speaking, it is giving you Bastion and even Demacia. Like pretty much all of those are actually valuable. That being said, the chance that like you actually want Poppy on your board on 3-5 is so low that it's probably worth selling. Now, if you want to make the argument, okay, I'm gonna keep Poppy because everything I just said is like she's the Master Bastion. You have a pair. I can understand that. You know what? Like if you want to make that argument, if someone wants to make that argument to me, I would concede that. But I'd say for the vast majority of players, like setting up your roll down is actually going to be really important. Like you have no choice but to hold like Ori, right? Yeah, your bench is filled up with trash. Like immediately speaking, assuming like I had the clarity to do this, is I would sell Cho'Gath, sell Poppy, sell Galio, sell extra Poppy, put in Kassadin, Sorks back the Kassadin, like be mentally committed to Sorks back and spouting the Kassadin. You don't do it right away, obviously you put your items on at the end, and then rolling, right? That way you have like so much extra bench space to just like send down your gold, obviously. But and if you do that, oftentimes you'll notice that if you hit 1 Lux, you'll be able to put in 8 Sork, which means that the chance that you make a mistake on this roll down or like a major mistake is like severely mitigated. Is like if you have 8 Sork by the end of this turn, you're probably fine, right? But to do that, one of these two actually both of them have to go. They can't be both played on your board and still get 8 Sork. Obviously, I know by the end of this you don't hit a Lux. Part of that is that you're getting stuck with bench space issues. Like you don't even know what to sell. Pretty much on every single roll, once you get a full bench, you're thinking like, oh, what can I sell? And it's like you're too slow to it, and it's not your fault. Like roll downs are literally the hardest part of TFT, and it's also the part where you can express the most skill. But obviously, a lot of that skill goes unnoticed. So pretty much like you are losing so much time that no matter what, your 3-5 is going to be completely janked.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, right? And then
I don't like. I haven't played around this like 8 Sork stuff like very often, and I didn't even like have that in my mind when I was rolling down. I think I was rolling down just for like the normal typical Sork board. I was just looking for something to like spike. But if I had gone into this thinking like, oh, I want to keep rolling, like roll as fast as I can, set up my board for 8 Sork, and then it would have looked like a lot cleaner. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. A lot of these units I should have already mentally prepared myself to just throw away
Yep.
because they're just not going to sit on my board anymore.
Okay, before this turn, by the way, because we won 3-2 and we didn't lose 3-3 by that all that much, like 3-0 is like a perfectly 3-0, assuming you won the previous round, is a perfectly acceptable loss. Like 45, this probably puts you in the ground. Like this 5-0 probably puts you in the ground. Like there's board a lot. Like if you hit Lux 2, RE1, sure you're fine. But like that's not like something anyone can play for. Even Lux 2 from 30 gold. I know you this thing will get you back up to 50 gold, Scuttle Puddle. Even like getting Lux 2 here is not, I think it's like sub 40%, but it's not like sub like 10%, for example. It's probably like close to the 1 and 3 to 1 and 2 range of hitting, in which case maybe it's salvageable, maybe it's not a top 8, but it's like aside from specifically that, this is probably a top 8. Like yeah. Because your items are still bad, by the way.
Yeah.
Like all, so the problem from before is still like that problem has never gone away. You need to pick up Sona. So the standard board is if you're not playing 8 Sork, which feel free to play 8 Sork. 8 Sork is really strong. But if you don't end up playing 8 Sork, this is just like I guess for the future. If you don't have like Sork card, you play Sona with Spat. It's Sona, J4, Lux, and then just a bunch of Sorks. Doesn't really apply this game. Okay, Lux is here. Yeah, you probably have to drop that. This guy has to come out. Yep, there you go. Okay, so you actually have a strong board for this turn, but it's still not that strong. And then I feel like you're going to get pressured to go to 8 here. You should sell all of these. None of these are useful anymore.
Yeah, I think in my head, I think I skipped over the Sona because I was thinking about 8 Sork, and I can't fit it in unless I'm level 8, right?
Yeah, you can. But like you can also not play 8 Sork, right? You can play 6 Sork
Yeah,
plus Sona plus, like say you have Kassadin 2, then you're not going to be playing 8 Sork.
yeah. I think that's the conclusion I come to. Just because like even if I was 8 Sork, it wasn't like strong enough to. I was trying to find any way to dig myself like out of this trench I built.
Alright, let's see what your drops are. Because like, I mean, if you don't get a rod here, you're dead. And actually, if you do get a rod here, you're dead. Okay, you got 2 golden orb drops? What the? Alright, we are dead. There's nothing you can do. I mean, your item, okay, mind you, your item drops are extremely low roll, by the way. This is like this is low roll. Like there's even if you, by the way, you were playing AD, you would still be very upset at these item drops. Like what the hell is cloak, cloak, cloak? You got cloak, cloak, cloak already. You didn't take a single cloak and you have 3 cloaks. Like, I mean, that's like pretty much killer for any comp. It doesn't matter the comp you played. That is, so like I'm trying to like get that. It was probably a shroud, but shroud declaw, I don't know. Like there's nothing you can do. I mean, there's nothing you can do. This is pretty brutal. These items are so brutal. Like I'd be mad regardless of whether I'm misplayed or not, just because this is actually pretty brutal. But yeah, it would be slightly better if you're playing AD because you would have had like 3 item Akshan. But okay, you have to take magic wand. There's gonna be nothing better than magic wand. You just need this. It is also a really good augmenter to take. Check your radiant. Spark is better, by the way. Not by a lot, but
Yeah, I was like debating, and then I was just like, okay, I mean, I have to kill one of these.
the reason why Spark
Um,
is better is just because you have to kill. Like Glove can make 2 items, but Spark can only make 1, or Cloak can only make 1.
mhm.
Guardbreaker is fine replacement for JG. Like it's like slightly weaker, but it is fine.
I usually prio Spark like very highly
Yeah, yeah.
when I'm playing AP, but I mean,
Um, certain builds can build Shiv, and certain builds can go for Dignar, but this comp is really Spark dependent. Because this comp is like really explosive. All your damage comes before your 3rd Shiv procs. Okay, it's just like this is like for future reference. If you're playing, for example, Invokers, going Shiv is fine because Bow and Tier are both bad components in that comp, and Rod is way too valuable. In this comp, Spark is too important just because like Lux will fire 80% of her first cast before any unit can get their 3rd shift proc in. Like 3rd shift proc is happening if you had it on Sona, it's happening now, just then. So at 23 seconds it happened. Because she got fed enough mana to cast. Vel'Koz it happened a little bit sooner. Anyways, I'm gonna predict that there's pretty much nothing you can do from the spot. There's nothing like this guy's catching up Piltover soon.
yeah, I he should have died there, but it's
Yeah,
fine.
he could have died.
Yeah, I think as soon as he cashed out, like I just knew I was like eighth. There's no coming back from it.
I mean 75 stack, that's a 3-star 5 cost. It used to be.
Yeah.
It has been 90 stack now, but whatever. Yeah, I mean you're dead. There's nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
There's
from here, I'm just playing it out as a formality. Just
yeah. You can
chronically.
border like you're just trying to like cheese a seven. Like hopefully you're strong enough to cheese a seven. Sometimes you are, by the way, but pretty much your
Yeah.
placement is not influenceable.
Big,
Like there's no. The only thing you can do to improve your placement is hit an RE, two. Yeah.
dead.
So yeah, you're dead. You're very
I
dead.
think
Oh,
I
there's your
do
rod. Perfect.
magically. Yeah. This is great.
Yeah, you are boned. Double J. It's not double JG. It's just a ZZ rod on someone else and just JG like well cause and pray for like Ari here somewhere. I mean, you're still
Okay.
the entire game when you're playing AP when you're playing Sork is pray for Ari regardless. But
Yeah.
yeah, don't double JG. It's not worth it. It's not on Sona. It's on Vel'Koz. Reason is Sona's not even a Sork. If you had Sork Spout on her, which is what you should have, I understand why you put on J4, and I would have put on J4 as well. I probably would have put on Cassidy, but same idea. I think it's completely fine to have put it on J4. I don't think that's a mistake. But you do ideally want it on Sona.
Hmm.
But yeah, because you don't have it on Sona, so it's on Vel'Koz. It's pretty much the last, it's like final words, because actually you beat this guy, but you definitely beat this guy, right? Okay. But like, you're beat this guy too, maybe. Yeah, you beat this guy too. Okay, my ability to judge fights is not complete. Oh, we have two Aries. Wait, hold up. No, okay. You know the thing is, I already know you're fighting the Sork player here, or the Piltover player here, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because you're actually
Yeah.
decently strong. This is
Yeah.
pretty sad.
I mean, I was really trying to cheese like a placement, but
Oh, you didn't fight. You fought Akshan 3. Ah, that's also pretty strong. Did you? Can you win? It's actually pretty
I
close.
yeah.
Like you did. Like it doesn't look that close, but it's actually decently close. And then like yeah, and then what? You can get an RE2 off the carousel, and the game's playable again. Don't even look. Don't even look. Don't look. Don't look. Don't look. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. You didn't look. Okay. I think that was pretty good. But a lot of it is just like probably the main takeaway is just like predicting direction. It's like yes, like and the thing is, by the way, if you look at even the best players, like I watch a lot of streams, right? I can tell you if you go look at some of the best players and watch them play, they'll make that exact same mistake that you made, and then they'll bitch about low rolling the entire game. And don't get me wrong, you did low roll a lot of like item components, completely low rolled. I think like the 3-2 choosing when to roll was a player diff, I guess. But
Mhm.
your items components, like there's literally nothing you can do about that. The only thing you can do is play a different comp, which once again, like it goes back to like that's like something we could have chose a long time ago. But it was also perfectly within your right to choose to play Sorks. I think if you did choose to play Sorks, by the way, going for Spat there probably isn't correct anyway. But it's fine enough of the time, right? Like once again, if you got Tier Rod off Krugs, you probably would have actually went first that game. If all the rest of your rolls went the same, you actually probably would have went first or second that. Well, you would have always lost the Piltover, but you would have went second that game, possibly, or like third, because you actually hit enough Aries. But like that's only like if all the rolls went the exact same way.
So what do you do when like you have upgrades,
Mm-hmm.
but the items don't exactly align? Like you just have shit items again. What are you thinking? Like let's say you have like a Jin 2, a Samira 2, maybe even like a frontline. You
Yeah,
have like Tier, Rod, Negatron or something.
I'd probably just make Spark and whatever. It's a Spark. It's fine. I'll figure something out later. But okay, so if you have tier rods that in that specific scenario, like that's so AP leaned, that's like I might find a way to pivot back into AP. But the reason why I'm skeptical of that specific thing is that AP is weaker than AD in the current meta by a lot. So there's two ways. You either hit Ari, in which case all your problems are solved, or I don't know, you just play for a fourth. Like it for that specific scenario. But if you go the opposite way, say you have like an upgraded Malzahar Void board, and you have like let's say Rageblade Sword, like Bow Rod Sword, like that's actually fine. Because you just Rageblade Malzahar Sword Malzahar, you item
Yeah.
hold AD Malzahar or like half AD Malzahar, and then you pivot slowly, and like that's acceptable. That's like a lot more acceptable. Now it's a little bit different once you get to like Hurricane Sword. Hurricane Sword's like, do you really want to be item holding her Hurricane Malzahar? It's like it's possible if you can streak. If Hurricane Malzahar 2 enables you to like a 4-streak 5-streak with an Orn item, then fine. But then you still obviously want to pivot AD. But the thing is, pivoting AD is not that hard because you hit Akshan and you've pivoted AD because Akshan's that broken. Or you hit like Zeri 1 and you hit like a couple of frontliners and you've pivoted AD, right? Pivoting into AP is so hard because you need to hit Malz. Like, if assuming you're playing Storks, which is the best form of AP right now, the other option is Luxazir, but Luxazir is just literally a weaker version of Storks. But if you're pivoting to Storks, then you need your Malzahar and your Ori 2 back. You need Swain 2. You need Vel'Koz 2. Like, pretty much you need so many of these different units to pivot back into AP that's too hard. challengers are a little bit on the weaker side right now. I personally never play challengers because I think they suck, and they're also super hard to pivot into because you need to be holding like Samira from the start of the game, or rather from the start of the game. Also, like if you don't have these units upgraded, you'll lose fights that you might look stronger. Like even if you have like Constitute, Yasuo, you're still gonna lose fights. You need these like units upgraded. But and then lastly, there's Invokers. Invokers is probably the actual best thing to pivot into, ideally, because you could be holding Tarek, Soraka on any, regardless of whether your board is like angling AD or AP, right? Like playing Tarek Soraka is fine, and then you can pivot AP or AD depending on what you get. Obviously, if you're pivoting AD, like Tarek Soraka is still your frontliner, generic. You're gonna pair it with Lissandra. Lissandra's played on every single AD board because of 3 Freljord, for example. Ashe, and then like pretty much you can get your board set up really easily for AD. For AP, I don't even have to talk about it because it's Invokers. You just play in the standard Invoker board.
Yeah.
There's like a couple things
Are
to
you
think about.
ever?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Are you ever playing like 6 Invokers?
Yeah,
Like without the emblem?
yeah. It's not that good though.
Okay. Okay, so I think then that like my grasp of the current meta is like kind of accurate. I do believe that it's AD lean like pretty hard because of action, like insane. I try my best to avoid like Aphelios just in general because like I don't think that unit is like real.
Yeah.
He like fires too much, doesn't do like any damage. A 2-star action is just better. So what are you doing when like you're committed to AD? You're like kind of strong. More than half the lobby is playing AD, and they're all playing for the same units. Like almost every AD comp is like playing Freljord. They want the Sejuani, Urgot frontline, and like you're noticing that all the units are being taken. You're not quite hitting as much as like you should be. Find yourself in a spot where like you're rolling, your donkey rolling to like 0 and 7 just to like hit, I don't know, like a Zeri 1 or a Zeri 2, maybe like one copy of Urgot, one copy of Sedge. I don't know if you found yourself in that spot.
Most of the time I play around Sedge 1. Like the entire, like when I was hitting rank 1, like I stopped playing by the way for like the past week because I don't like the meta at all. But like when I was like doing better, I was just playing around Sedge 1 mostly. Like part of the answer to that question is that there is nothing you can do. Like hit your Auction 2 and pray that Auction 2, like Lissandra 2, Sedge 1 is enough a lot of times. Like I haven't donkey rolled for a Sedge 2 in a really long time just because I know like the entire lobby is playing for Sedge 2. I just hit Sedge 1 and that's my 3 Freljord. Like sometimes if you can't hit Sedge 1, like if you can't hit anything, you're dead. There's no like, there's no, oh, what can I do? Like there is no way you can do. Like that's part of the reason why I think the meta was really bad. I think they needed to be patched and they didn't because they thought the meta would be okay. I don't know. Like maybe they still think that way. I personally don't agree with it, but I pretty much, when I was still doing well, I still thought the meta was bad. But obviously now that like people are getting better, people are understanding that like Akshan and Ahri are that broken. Like Akshan and Ahri are the most broken units for their cost in a really long time, honestly. Because you don't even need them upgraded. Like Ahri 1 is broken, Akshan 1 is broken, Akshan 2 is broken, Akshan 3 is broken. Like before it was like Z3 was broken, Z2 is like kind of broken, Z1's horrible, and also you need 3 items. Like you don't really need 3. You need 1 item Ahri, blue buff. You need like 1.5 item Akshan, and like it uses Hurricane, which is a cloak. Like you need 1 bow really, because getting a cloak is easy. Like I don't know, Akshan is so much more broken than like some of these units. But anyways, so yeah, there's not too much you can do sometimes. Like it's not a really good answer, but sometimes it's the answer. Like if you're telling me you're not hitting anything, like I mean I can't tell you to hit.
No,
Better.
no, I'm not. It's just like I guess I'm trying to find an answer to like a feeling of like discontent with the meta.
Yeah,
It's like really frustrating to play where I feel like out of nowhere people will just have like the most insane stuff. Like they'll just have like a Belveth on 7 on like stage 3 for no reason. Or yeah, like one person like you can look at his spot 1 round and you just know that he's going 8th. And then yeah, like he'll hit an Ari, and he just immediately stabilizes, and then like goes like first or something.
yep,
Or someone like hits an action 2 on like stage 2 or beginning of stage 3, and you just know that they're guaranteed top 4 because
yep.
they hit this like 1 unit. It gives them 2 drops, and it's like crazy. And in the meanwhile, if you're not given it, or even if you are given it, is that really like due to your skill? Like is it actually a reflection of like if you're playing well or not? I'm like not sure recently.
Well, I think the meta sucks. So if that's the answer you're looking for, I'm with you there, and I think most people are with you there. Wait for next patch. I don't know. The next patch comes out in 2 days, so or like in a day. So it'll hopefully help out. I'm hopeful about the next patch. I think this patch was a really good 1 week patch, but because it was a 2 week patch, I think it's horrible. So, and I think that's like I don't know. I think that's like something that like the dev team doesn't like talking about. I could talk to like the devs a lot, obviously. Like it's not their fault that they can't be patch every time. That being said, I don't even think that they would want to be patched this patch. But like, I really do believe if they be patched this patch, be patch Ari and Akshan a little bit, like it would be a lot healthier. But I mean, we'll never know, I guess. So I don't know. Wait for next patch. It helps. It'll help. I mean, like, listen. Like we play TFT, we played it a lot. Sometimes it's just a wait for next patch, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's fine. It's fine. I'm just glad it's like not just in my head.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
Do I even have any more questions?
If you can't come up with
Oh,
any, by the way, just like before you go, like you can feel free to ask it. But if you can't come up with any, you want to just DM me, like randomly, I'll probably get to you. Just like
okay.
off
Yeah.
the top of your head, like so. If you still have any questions, like and like it comes to you, I don't know, like in a couple hours, DM me. I'll get back to you probably.
Okay. So I don't know why this is. I just like don't know how to play this song. Like I think I can like handle it in like lower lobbies. But I remember I played a lobby in the sum where I had like Setsuko, Soju, like freaking everyone in the lobby, and I just went dead eight. It felt like I'm like leveling on curve with everyone. You know, like you're going early four, early five, as early six as you can, like 3-1 or whatever. You're pushing for tempo. But then I look at my board at like stage, like later stage three and stage four. None of my shit like makes sense or is upgraded, and their board looks like a real board. And I just like I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong or like what I should lean toward in the sum. Because like
Um,
it makes sense for me if like I'm given Noxus, right? Like obviously I'll just like it's easy. I could just play Noxus. But if I'm not given Noxus in the sum, am I leaning toward like whatever my items give me? Should I avoid rerolls? Should I? Yeah, I'm not sure if my read on that region is like good.
most of the time you're just playing around 2 and 3 cross. You're like probably rolling on on Sump. I generally roll on the first turn of the game, like 2-1.
Really?
Yeah,
Like you're
for upgradable
rolling like
costs. Yeah, I
oh
just roll on 2-1, and then when I go 5, I probably roll again. So I'm rolling on 3, by the way, and then I'm probably rolling on 5, and then I'm probably rolling on 6. Definitely rolling on 7, and then I go 8
so
whenever I can.
you're not like putting the gold into leveling. You're
You
just
can
putting
still
the gold
level.
into
No,
upgrades.
like you can still like if you look at the gold value once it comes up, like rolling 1 or 2 times doesn't cost you being able to level most of the time. But yeah,
Okay.
just like roll when you don't think you can, and you probably can.
I see. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so like stage 2-1, you have like two pairs,
Forge
one
roll.
cost.
Yeah.
You're just rolling, you
Yep.
hit one of them, it's like fuck it, it's fine. Level, play strongest board.
Yep.
The next stage, I mean next round, just do the same thing. Do it until you can.
Within reason. Within reason. Like don't like if you have 0 pairs, okay, then
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
some.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think like a lot of players don't like Sump. I actually don't mind it at all. Just roll. It's the same thing as like it was a long time ago, but in March of Progress, like it's the reason why I think March of Progress is fine right now. It's like people take it to like be a trillion gold level 7 and level 8. It's like I mean you can
Yeah,
just take
does
it
it
and
make
roll on
sense?
4, roll on 5, make a strong board the entire game, and then start rerolling something. You don't need gold, so like pretty much okay. So the reason why it's good to do it on Sump specifically is because the reason why you don't roll on stage on level 4 and level 5 is because you need to wait for your gold to accumulate.
Yeah.
Obviously because VCon. In Sump you don't. So I think it's. I mean, like, by the way, Setsuko and Soju probably did not roll. They probably just hit. By the way, I'm going to tell you right now. Pretty much. Okay, I will say within reason, do not respect the players that you queue into. Not me. It doesn't matter. Not Dish Soap. It doesn't matter. Do not
Yeah, yeah.
respect like the part of the problem because you mentioned once I get into high lobbies I'm doing worse. One is okay. They are better than you. Like that's just like I'm sorry, but that is a fact. That's fine.
Hmm.
It's like it's nothing against you for them to be better than you. But another reason is because like if you think they're better than you, then they're definitely going to be better than you. Like if you think they're like, I think everyone's worse than me, except for like maybe a couple players. Like especially in ladder games. Like if you think everyone's worse than you, then you're not gonna play as though they're better than you. Like you pay them a little bit of respect. Like don't treat them like as though they're a complete idiot. I'm gonna be fully like full disclosure. Soju and Setsuko, especially Soju, kind of plays like an idiot just for stream content. Like Soju will intentionally grief his game for fun, consistently, for fun, like literally for fun. But so like don't I don't know like pretty much you're paying them too much respect, and it's probably influencing your ability to play the game.
I see. Yeah. I think I totally understand.
All right, so yeah, that was the coaching video. If you guys kind of are interested in getting coached, please feel free to DM me. You can join my Discord. Most of the time, it's best to just DM me on Discord. Once you join my Discord, you'll be able to find me there. Otherwise, if you like the video, please let me know what else you want to see. Like, comment, subscribe, follow my Twitter, follow my Twitch for more TFT gameplay. And yeah, I'll see you later. Peace.